Introduction: The common cold is a viral infection that affects the nose, throat, and lungs. It is caused by a virus called rhinovirus. The symptoms of the common cold include fever, sore throat, cough, and runny nose. Fever. Body temperature. The body temperature of mammals is one of the most important signs of illness. A fever is an increase in the body's normal temperature. Many viruses cause fever, but only a few are serious enough to require treatment. If a child has a fever, the first step is to find out what is causing it. Our normal body temperature ranges from 97 degrees Celsius to 98 degrees Celsius, and when we have a fever our body temperature rises to 100 degrees Celsius. Plus, the human body has an internal temperature that is controlled by a complex network of organs, tissues, and fluids. The main temperature regulator is the hypothalamus. The hypothalamus controls the body's temperature through two main outputs, ANS and blood temperature. The ANS, autonomic nervous system, is the set of nerves that regulate the body's organs and functions, such as the sweat glands, blood pressure, and heart rate. Fever is a condition in which the body temperature is elevated above the normal range. The exact cause of fever is not known, but there are several possible explanations, including virus, bacteria, and autoimmune diseases. The most common type of fever is caused by a virus. This is usually accompanied by other flu-like symptoms, such as headache, fatigue, and body aches. Fever is an elevation in the body's temperature. It happens when the body tries to fight an infection. It can also happen when the body's normal temperature is too low. Most cases of fever are self-limiting and go away without treatment. When you have a fever, your body temperature is usually higher than normal. You can feel warmer than usual, and your temperature may be higher than you'd like it to be. There are a few different types of fevers, and all have different causes, symptoms, and treatments. This article will focus on the body temperature of fever. What are the symptoms of the common cold? We all know the feeling, that strange, nagging sensation that something isn't quite right. It could be a scratchy throat, a headache, a cough, or a runny nose. Sometimes, it's a combination of these symptoms. Sometimes, it's something completely different. The common cold is an infection of the nose and throat caused by a variety of viruses. It causes symptoms such as a runny nose, sore throat, and cough. The severity of symptoms varies from person to person and can range from a mild inconvenience to a full-blown illness causing complete bed rest. Most of us will have experienced the common cold at some point in our lives, and the symptoms can be unpleasant. The normal cold is caused by a variety of viruses, which cause symptoms such as a runny nose, a sore throat, and a fever. The fever is a response to the virus, and helps your body fight off the infection. The fever makes you feel unwell, but it's a good thing. It's one of the ways your body is fighting off the virus. The best thing you can do is to rest, and wait for the fever to pass. How is the common cold treated? The common cold is caused by hundreds of different viruses. The symptoms are caused by the immune system reacting to the virus. There is no cure for the common cold, but there are things you can do to make yourself feel better. You can take over-the-counter medicine to make you feel better, such as paracetamol or ibuprofen. You can also get plenty of rest and drink plenty of fluids. The normal cold is a viral infection that causes the nose, throat, and airways to become irritated and inflamed. Most people will experience at least one cold in their lifetime. While there is no cure for the normal cold, there are ways to reduce the symptoms and make you feel better. The first thing you should do if you have a cold is to take paracetamol or ibuprofen to ease the aches and pains. The common cold is an annoying but harmless viral infection that's caused by one of more than 100 different viruses. It causes symptoms such as a runny nose, sore throat, and mild fever, which can last for a few days. We all experience colds at some point in our lives, and they're often caused by our own body's defenses against the viruses we're exposed to. But some people get them more often than others, and sometimes they seem to come out of nowhere. How is the common cold diagnosed? What causes the normal cold? It's a question that has plagued medical professionals for decades. While the cause is a complicated web of viruses and bacteria, the symptoms are almost universally the same: a stuffy nose, sore throat, and watery eyes. While these symptoms can also be caused by allergies and other illnesses, the majority of the time the cause is a cold. The normal cold is a viral infection of the upper respiratory tract, which causes a wide range of symptoms including a runny nose, sore throat, and cough. Most people will experience a cold at some point in their lives, and often the only thing they can do is wait for it to pass. The diagnosis of a cold can be difficult because the symptoms often overlap with those of other illnesses, such as flu or sinusitis. In many cases, the diagnosis is based on a combination of symptoms and a physical examination. The normal cold is a viral infection that affects the nose and throat, causing a range of symptoms including a runny nose, a cough, and a sore throat. Most people will experience at least one cold during their lifetime. They are very common and are caused by over 200 different viruses. Colds are often confused with the flu, which is caused by a different type of virus. When you feel the telltale signs of a cold, such as a runny nose, watery eyes, and a scratchy throat, it's hard to ignore the fact that you have a virus. But how do you know for sure that you have a cold? One of the most normal ways to diagnose a cold is to take a close look at your symptoms. For example, if you have the runny nose, scratchy throat, and sneezing, you can be pretty sure you have a cold. When you come down with a cold, you probably don't think much about how to diagnose it. But the first thing you should do is figure out what's causing your symptoms. The best way to do that is to take a good history. If a doctor isn't available, you should try to get a diagnosis from your symptoms. How is the common cold treated? The common cold is caused by hundreds of different viruses. The symptoms are caused by the immune system reacting to the virus. There is no cure for the common cold, but there are things you can do to make yourself feel better. You can take over-the-counter medicine to make you feel better, such as paracetamol or ibuprofen. You can also get plenty of rest and drink plenty of fluids. The normal cold is a viral infection that causes the nose, throat and airways to become irritated and inflamed. Most people will experience at least one cold in their lifetime. While there is no cure for the normal cold, there are ways to reduce the symptoms and make you feel better. The first thing you should do if you have a cold is to take paracetamol or ibuprofen to ease the aches and pains. The normal cold is a viral infection that usually causes a runny nose, sore throat, and achy body. You can usually treat the symptoms with over-the-counter medications, like decongestants, anti-inflammatory drugs, or acetaminophen. But if your symptoms are more severe or don't improve, you should see your doctor. Antibiotics won't help because the normal cold is caused by viruses, not bacteria. The common cold is the most normal infectious disease in the world. No one knows for certain how many colds are diagnosed each year, but in the United States alone, 30 million people contract a cold each year. The human body has a variety of mechanisms designed to protect it from infection, but sometimes these mechanisms fail. When a virus attacks the body and infects cells, the immune system responds by sending specialized cells and chemicals to fight the infection. The normal cold is the most commonly diagnosed viral infection. It's caused by a wide range of viruses and can cause a range of symptoms, including a runny nose, sore throat, and cough. It's usually a minor illness and can be treated at home with rest and over-the-counter medication. However, sometimes the symptoms are so severe that you need to see your doctor. Prevention of the common cold. The common cold is a highly infectious illness caused by a virus. The cold virus can be transmitted through small particles in the air, such as coughs and sneezes, as well as contact with an infected person's saliva or other bodily fluids. Cold symptoms usually begin 1 to 2 days after exposure to the virus and include a mild, low-grade fever, runny or stuffy nose, mucus, body aches, headache, and fatigue. Although a cold can last for a few days to a week, most people feel better in a few days. You've probably heard that the cold and flu is just a part of getting older. And while that may be true, colds and the flu are still very common. In fact, the cold and flu are the most common reasons people go to the doctor. Most of the time, colds and the flu are caused by viruses. The normal cold is a surprisingly normal illness. In the United States, more than 50% of children and 68% of adults will have a cold at some point during their lives. Even if you've never had a cold before, you've almost certainly come close to someone who has. The symptoms of the common cold are so familiar that we often take them for granted. The normal cold is a virus that infects the nose and sometimes the throat. The cold is caused by a virus, typically a rhinovirus, which is spread through the air, usually via coughs and sneezes. The best way to prevent the common cold is to avoid spreading the virus to others. In some circumstances, antibiotics can help reduce the length and severity of a cold but do not cure it. The common cold is an illness characterized by nasal symptoms, such as a runny or stuffy nose, and fever. It is the most common illness in the United States, affecting over 50 million people every year. The causes of the common cold are unknown, but it is likely due to a combination of environmental and genetic factors. The best way to prevent the common cold is to avoid spreading it to others. How is the common cold spread? The common cold is a virus that can spread easily from person to person. It is not always easy to tell who has the common cold and who does not, since the viruses cause very similar symptoms. The most common symptom of a cold is a runny or stuffy nose. Other symptoms can include a cough, body aches, and sore throat. The common cold is a group of viruses that can cause a range of symptoms, from a slight sniffle to a debilitating head cold. Some of the most normal cold viruses are spread through droplets from the nose and throat of an infected person, while others are spread through direct contact with another person's nasal secretions, saliva, or respiratory tract. Some cold viruses are also spread through contaminated objects, such as a handshake or a door handle. In most cases, the normal cold is not serious and is easily cured with a few days of rest and a cold medication. The normal cold is one of the most common illnesses in the United States. It's caused by a virus, but unlike many viruses, which are passed from person to person, the common cold is spread through tiny particles in the air. The common cold is typically short-lived and is often confused with the flu. However, unlike the flu, which generally targets the respiratory tract, the normal cold generally targets the nose and throat. The normal cold is an illness caused by a virus. It's most common in winter and spring, and most often spreads through contact with an infected person's nasal mucus or saliva. It can also be caught by touching contaminated objects, such as doorknobs, keyboards, and telephones. Some people get a fever and a sore throat when they have the normal cold. The normal cold is an illness characterized by the presence of a virus. The normal cold is typically caused by a virus called a rhinovirus, which is a small, molecule-shaped virus that infects the upper respiratory tract. The normal cold is spread through contact with nasal secretions, such as mucus and saliva, of someone who has the virus. The normal cold most commonly occurs in the winter and spring, and typically lasts 3 to 7 days. Conclusion: the normal cold is a viral infection that affects the nose, throat, and lungs. It can cause a variety of symptoms, including a fever. In this article, we have discussed the causes and treatment. Subscribe this YouTube channel and press bell icon. Thanks.